This is Ed Branding with session 25 of Ed's Corner, July 25th. This is the third in a series that I do periodically on Nashville's history, this being the 60th anniversary of Metro. Metro has a number of events planned, and thought this was a time to hit a couple of Nashville history books. Because it's summertime and because the political folks are so focused on if they got a free time, it's going to be a community meeting geared toward their reelection. So there aren't many community meetings right now, won't be until about September. So this is a good time to review Nashville's history. This is from a book, Yesterday's Nashville by Carl Zebart, and yes, that's the Zebart from Zebart's bookstore years ago, published in 1976. There's a picture here, a woodcut of a wooden-covered bridge. The railroad bridge across the Cumberland River, the only remaining bridge from its early days, was partially covered and used by pedestrian and mounted traffic as well as trains during the federal occupation from 1862 to 65. Retreating Confederates cut the suspension bridge and set the bridge on fire, but it was repaired by the U.S. Corps of Engineers. Sentries guarded entrances to the bridge throughout the war. And that railroad bridge is still there, just out of downtown. It looks horrible, but nobody can really make CSX fix the bridge. Carl Dean tried, and they literally laughed at him at a dinner that he attended with them. So that yucky looking bridge, probably going to look yucky for a while. William Walker, called the gray-eyed man of destiny, dreamed of uniting all of Central America under one government. Born and raised in his house on High Street, he graduated from the University of Nashville at 16, studied medicine in the city and in Paris, and became a journalist and lawyer in New Orleans and in California. He was executed by a Honduran firing squad while attempting to make himself President of Honduras. There's a sign right in front of at the corner of Commerce and I guess that's 4th, which talks about him right across the street from the Grand Ole Opry. Continuing on in this history of Nashville, General James Robertson, the founder of Nashville, was born and raised in Virginia with little education, but acquired during his lifetime both the affection and respect of his countrymen, including the Indians with whom he dealt. During the last years, Robertson headed the Chickasaw Agency, which stood on the present site of Memphis. He died and was buried there until his remains were transferred to the cemetery in Nashville in 1825. There is a picture here of 3 presidents within the brief span of American history from 1825 to 1870. 3 men extensively connected to Nashville served as presidents of the United States. Andrew Jackson was the first man from the west of the Appalachians to hold the nation's highest office. That period is known as the Age of Jackson. During the administration of hardworking James K. Polk, more territory was added to the U.S. than under any other president save Thomas Jefferson with the Louisiana Purchase. Tennessee Democrat Andrew Johnson aligned himself with the Union powers by being against Tennessee's secession. After the war, he refused to completely disenfranchise the South. It caused the political chicanery, which led him to be the only president impeached until Bill Clinton. John Overton, a Virginia-bred, Kentucky-educated lawyer, came to Nashville in his early 20s to practice his profession. In the period before Tennessee became a state, Tennessee lawyers were prospering in land litigation. What with North Carolina having reluctantly given up its claim to the soil of Tennessee, homesteading, fanciful Indian treaties, and veterans' land grants, there was room for dispute. John Overton became an expert in this field, first as a lawyer, then as a judge in the Superior Court of Law and Equity, and still later served on the state Supreme Court. An early and close friend of Jackson, he served as a cooling and steadying influence on the career of the rather I think the word would be excitable, Old Hickory. Overton's home, Traveler's Rest, was built in 1797, listed on the National Register of Historic Places. It still stands today. And lastly, an entrance to Belmont is viewed here from the south. Adelicia Hayes Franklin Ackland Cheatham, a lot of Tennessee names in there, who built Belmont, once wrote to her mother, "I have long had a desire to cross the great ocean and see something of life on the other side. I have dreamed especially of Italy. Magnificent in concept, Belmont, Bellemonte, as she freely wrote, reflected the dreams and desires of this Nashville-bred woman, and it had a great impact on the city for over 4 generations. 40 years as a private residence, then for more than 60 years the home of 2 schools for girls, Belmont Junior College and the Ward Belmont School, and finally as Belmont College." She was a huge landowner in a part of the country that was horse country back in the day, and things like the Belmont Stakes are tied to her. That's all the time we have for this. I'm Ed Branding.